recording first. Okay, Assalamualaikum, good afternoon, welcome back to Literary Criticism. Today we're looking at a topic called reader response criticism. Okay, so how does reader response criticism differ from the kinds of literary theories that we looked at before, right? You compare to the theory we looked at last week, for example. Okay, last week we looked at two theories. One of them was formalism. Okay, formalism we looked at on last Wednesday. Okay, formalism, everything is contained in the text. Okay, and the secrets of the text are contained in the text, and you as the reader, okay, you have to unlock, decode those secrets by analyzing the text. Okay, reader response takes a different approach. Okay, it rebels against this idea that the text has secrets, for you to decode. Right, rather, reader response assumes that meaning of the text is created at the act of reading. Okay, so during the act of reading. So we'll take a look at that a bit deeper then. Okay, so more on that later. But first, let's have a look at this. Okay, I want you to think about this. Have you listened to the song before? Okay, have you heard the song? Okay, this is Dracula by Tame Impala, right? Okay, one of my favorite band. Okay, so one of my friends, okay, talked about this song Dracula by right, this song quite recent. I think this song came out, right. So my friend said that this song is, you look at the lyrics of the song and it's actually talking about human trafficking or child trafficking. Okay, it has some of that. It's talking about Epstein Island and all of that hedonistic lifestyle and so on. Okay, and I suppose if you look at the text in a in a certain way, you listen to the song, but with certain references in mind. Okay, I suppose you can say that it's about that. Okay, I look at the song, I look at the lyrics of the song, I look at I listen to the song, right, and I think it's about mostly about friends who get you into trouble. Okay, peer pressure and all that. Okay, so now, that is not to say that my friend's interpretation of the song is wrong. Yeah, indeed, my friend is also entitled to her opinion. Okay, so why do we both come up with different interpretation of this song? Okay, because we both have different interests. Maybe we both have we bring different experiences, different background knowledge to the interpretation of this song. Okay, perhaps my friend was, at the time of the conversation, my friend was perhaps a bit obsessive over the Epstein files coming out, and so on, right? It was like the peak, the highlight of her week, perhaps. Okay, so maybe that contributed to the idea of this interpretation that she has. Okay, now, not to say that she is wrong. Okay, she is entitled to her opinion. And that is the basis of reader response criticism. Okay, the meaning of, say, a song like Dracula here, okay, is very open, very subjective. And we, as the consumer of music, consumer of media, consumer of literature, and so on, we create meaning and significance through the process of engagement with the text. Okay, so the text here is It's the word that we use for all of these media or entertainment. Okay, so the song is considered a text. Movies are considered a text, and so on, right? So you gain so the sorry not you but the song, for example, gains significance and value when someone is listening to it. Okay, when someone listens to it, when someone interpret its meaning and so on, okay, then the song becomes significant, becomes valuable. Okay, that is the basis of a reader response criticism. So in today's topic, okay, we're going to look at we're going to look at six different theories under reader response criticism. Okay, we're going to look at Louis Rosenblatt. Okay, Louis Rosenblatt comes out with this theory called transactional reading, right? So Louis Rosenblatt is the OG of reader response. Okay, she introduces this idea of transactional reading. All right. And then we're going to look at a German theorist by the name of Wolfgang Iser. Okay, Wolfgang Iser comes up with a theory called reception theory. Okay, in a way, reception theory is basically what reader response is. Okay, uh, it's a it's a evolution of transactional reading. All right, and then you have Hans Robert Jauss. Okay, he complemented reception theory with a theory called horizon of expectations. Okay, we're going to look at that, and then we're going to go to 1990s where Stanley Fish comes up with the theory called interpretive communities. Okay, interpretive communities basically means that when you read, you don't read alone. Okay, other people read as well. So, or watch movies or listen to songs. You don't do it alone. Other people do it as well. Okay, and the act of interpretation is not unique to you, but it's also done by other people. Okay, and we're going to look at that interpretive communities. And then, last but not least, we will look at Henry Jenkins, who comes up with a theory of participatory culture. Okay, this is a very modern theory here, participatory culture. Okay, where the reader does not isn't just a passive consumer of the text, but the reader also actively create content using the text. Yeah. And then because we're looking at a lot of theories, okay, I will summarize at the end. Okay, we will quickly summarize these six theories, and then we will conclude reader response. All right. Okay. So as always, all right, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, okay, anything to add to our lecture, you can unmute and talk, okay, or you could also type in the message box there, yeah, and I will read those as well. Okay, Liana says, I know ball knowledge, yeah. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this. Okay. Introduction. So reader response criticism is a school of literary theory that positions the reader at the absolute center of interpretation, arguing that literary work does not possess a fixed objective meaning until it is actively experienced and brought to life by the reader. Okay, so basically, what they're saying is a work of literature has no fixed meaning or fixed objective or significance. Okay, literature has no value until it engages with a reader. Okay, you think about this. You think about William Shakespeare, for example. Okay, or very well known English playwright and so on, right? William Shakespeare, very, very popular, right? Okay. Now, he wrote a play called Hamlet. Perhaps some people, exaggerate and say that Hamlet is the best play best drama in the English language, right? Now, uh, the Hamlet will not be very significant, okay, if Shakespeare did not perform the play. Okay, imagine if William Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, he wrote the script for Hamlet, but then he hides it in a box, right? Or he writes it in his diary, and then he doesn't let anyone read it. Okay, then Hamlet will not have any significance. It will be of no value. Okay, it will carry no value whatsoever because no one has seen the play. Okay, it doesn't matter if it exists as a written form. Okay, but if you are not letting people read it or watch the play, right, then it will not carry any value. Okay, it will not carry any significance to culture or whatsoever. It will not be it will not have meaning because a reader does not interact with it. Okay, this same goes for novels. You say J.K. Rowling, for example. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, right? Okay, imagine if she wrote Harry Potter, okay, the Harry Potter novels, and then instead of getting it published, what does she do? She hides it in her attic or something, right? She say, okay, I'll just post this novel on my Wattpad, and then I'll private. I'll set it to private, okay, so no one can read my cringe novel and so on, right? Okay, so she doesn't want anyone to read it. Okay, then will she be a millionaire? No, she will not. Okay, the novel will carry no significance whatsoever unless it is published and readers can read it. Yeah, so the reader will play an important role in making meaning and so on. All right. So while traditional methods treat the reader as passive consumer, extracting the author's pre-hidden clues, the reader response theories argue that a book is merely an inert blueprint until the reader applies their own memories, cultural background, and cognitive strategies to animate it. How do you animate it? And I'm not talking about animating using computer software or something. No, animate it in your imagination, right? When you read stories, you imagine the scenes, you imagine the characters, you bring them to life through your imagination. Okay, so that's what it means there. Okay, by animating it. Okay, let's go to our first theory here. Okay, let's go to Louis Rosenblatt. Okay, so Louis Rosenblatt proposes this theory of called transactional reading. Okay, or transactional theory. All right. What does that mean? What does this word mean? Transaction or transactional? Any idea? I'm sure you've heard it before.
It's two-way.
Two ways. Okay, uh, uh, two-way engagement, give and take, basically, right?
There will
Okay.
be receiver and the sender.
Yes, that's right. A receiver and the sender. A transaction like that. Say, for example, if you go to a shop, right, you do a business transaction, right? You buy something, right? So you buy a piece of candy at the shop. You pay money, you receive candy, right? Okay. So there's a transaction there between two parties. So what Louis Rosenblatt proposes is that reading literature, reading text, okay, watching a movie, listening to a song, all of that is transactional. Okay, you have the text. All right, the text. Remember, the text thing can be literature. It can be a novel. It can be a song. Okay, a film or whatsoever. Right. We call it a text. Right. Just as a general word here. Okay, film. Right. Whatever. That's a text. All right. And then on the other side, you have your reader. Okay, the audience. Right, consumer, the audience, or the reader on one side. Okay, so reading is transactional, she says. Okay, so the text provides you with something, you also provide the text with something. Okay, so what is transactional that way? Okay, what is it that you provide? What is it that the text provide? Let's have a look. So the theory asserts that meaning does not reside passively inside the text like a hidden code, nor does it project entirely from the reader's bias. Meaning is a dynamic event born from a two-way transaction between reader and text. Okay, so each act of reading is unique, as each reader brings different knowledge, experience into the transaction. So Rosenblatt describes the interaction, this interactive process, okay, of reading as a live circuit running between the printed word and the human mind. Okay, so what's going on? What is it that the text give you? What is it that the reader gives the text? Okay, the text will give you, let's say the words, right? The plot, the character, the direction, and so on, right? All of these things, the world of the story, okay, the characters, the drama, whatsoever, right? And you, as the reader, you give the text its significance. Okay, significance, its values. Okay, its value, right? Because it is you who determine whether the text is a good story, okay, or is it boring, or is it exciting, okay? Who decides that? It is the audience, it is the reader that decides that, yeah? So you apply significance, value, and of course, meaning, yeah? Meaning. You give meaning to the text, yeah? Okay. All right. So let's look at this. All right. Furthermore, Rosenblatt also differentiates two modes of reading. Okay, that is afferent reading versus aesthetic reading. Okay, so so Rosenblatt argues that we fall somewhere along this continuum between two primary reading stances. Okay, and it determines how much value you get out of the text. Okay, afferent reading means that you are focused strictly on extracting factual informations or directions or arguments. Okay, so let's say, for example, I give you a text. I give you Yusuf Idris' House of Flesh. Again, the first short story we read in class, right? House of Flesh. And I tell you that this story, this short story, is going to come out for your test. Okay, in your test, this short story, you'll be questioned on this short story, right? So what are you going to do in preparation for the test? You're going to read that short story and you're going to take notes. You're going to identify all of the characters. Going to find all the details, right? You're going to look at the plot of the story. Again, you're going to just get through the story very quickly to extract all of this information, right? Maybe it's not very fun, yeah, to do that, right? However, if I give you the story and I tell you, take a whole afternoon, enjoy the story, right? You might sit down with a cup of coffee, right, and read this story, and you might apply aesthetic reading. So, aesthetic reading here is when the reader's attention shift to its to the lived experience of the reading process itself. You focus on the emotions, on the rhythm of the words, on the personal memories that are triggered by the text, right? So why do I use House of Flesh as an example for this? Because House of Flesh is beautifully written, right? You can argue that the story may be macam apa macam triggering a bit again. Okay, you might say that the story is hard to swallow, right? But you cannot argue that the text was not beautifully written, right? It was very nicely written, right? So imagine you read that slowly, you take in all the emotion, all the depravity, and so on, right? Okay, all the rhythm of the words, the way that the paragraphs are constructed, the sentences, right? The flow of the language, and so on, right? You take in all of that, the beauty of the language, right? That is aesthetic reading. Okay, you take your time to enjoy the text, right? Now, I don't know what personal memories that story is going to trigger. Okay, that's to each his own, right? To each his own. Okay. All right. So you understand these two modes of reading. Now, another thing is that Rosenblatt says, uh, but the text still has a role to play. All right, the text still has a role to play. You can imagine that if we say that readers are the one that give meaning to the text, right? Does that mean that all your opinions are correct? Does that mean that the text can be whatever you want? Okay. Does that mean that there are no wrong answers in literature? Right? You can't you can't say that, right? Okay. Otherwise, it would be otherwise the whole field of literary criticism will be in complete chaos, right? Everyone can say anything they want, right? So Rosenblatt says, no, you can't go too far. Okay, Rosenblatt says that but the text, okay, provides something called a textual constraint. Okay, the text acts as a blueprint, a direction, okay, in which leading you to some idea of interpretation. All right, so the text still provides some boundaries. Okay, if a reader's interpretation wanders too far off base, okay, due to personal biases, the physical facts on the pages act as a corrective boundary. Okay, so an interpretation is only valid if it is not explicitly contradicted by the text. Okay, so for example, if you say, last week we read what's that? Hills Like White Elephant, right, in class. Many of you didn't come to class on last Wednesday. Okay, now Hills Like White Elephant, right? So we read that text. Now, if you read that text, you say that actually, I think the woman, the girl in the story is actually much older than the American man, right? Okay, uh, you that is going to go against what the text provides, right? Okay, it goes against the boundary of text. All right, so but there's some limitations are in place so that you do not go completely crazy with your interpretation. Yeah, but you still have to justify it within the boundaries of the text. Okay, so that is Rosenblatt's transactional theory, yeah, transactional reading theory of reading. Okay, any questions, Klaus? Any questions so far?
No.
It's okay, yeah? Very, very easy to understand, I hope. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at Wolfgang Itzer, right? Wolfgang Itzer, this guy, he looks like Nosferatu, right? But that's okay. Don't worry. He's a German fellow. Okay. So completely safe. Okay. So Itzer's a reception theory focuses on how a text function as a complex network of structures that trigger a response in the reader's minds. Okay, so Louis Rosenblatt previously, right, focused more on things like the personal memories or emotional transaction of the reading experience, right? Easter, on the other hand, focuses on the cognitive and phenomenon processing. Okay, he wants to know when you read, okay, what is going on in your mind. Okay, he wants to know the mental mechanics of the reading process. All right. So now, Isa's theories are great as well. Yeah. So his theory is called the reception theory. One of the core idea of the reception theory is called the narrative gaps. Okay, narrative gaps, meaning that in the story there are gaps or blanks. Okay, there are missing details. All right, so no author can describe every single physical detail, backstory, or emotional state in a story. Okay, a text is naturally full of gaps, blanks, or indeterminacy. Okay, it's a very hard word to pronounce in one go. Yeah. Okay, so in a text there are a lot of gaps. Okay, there are a lot of missing details. All right, so these gaps acts as invitation, okay, for the readers. Okay, so they force the reader to use their own imagination and logical reasoning to fill in the missing pieces. Now, because the text leaves things unsaid, the reader must actively co-author the narrative. Right. So if a text has no gaps, it offers zero aesthetic pleasures. Okay, if it has too many gaps, it can become frustratingly unreadable. Okay, so basically, okay, a text will leave a lot of things unsaid. Okay, so if we can recall the story that we not plot hole, not just plot hole, Hafif. Plot hole can be part of this narrative gaps, but you think about this. Last week we read Hills Like White Elephant, right? In that story, the author Ernest Hemingway does not mention abortion, right? The word abortion. It instead uses the word operation, right? Now you must guess, right? As you read through, you have to figure out what this operation is. You look at the way that the characters are acting and so on. Okay, so these are narrative gaps. Okay, another thing is that you look at the way that the characters are described, right? Can you recall how these characters, the American man, there are only two main characters, right, in Hills Like White Elephant, American man and the girl, right? The girl is given a name, Jig, right? Let me ask you, okay, how does the writer describe the American man? You don't have to look back at the text, right? Because the text actually does not provide any description about the American man. Okay, the text does not tell you, how tall this American man is. Okay, what his jawline looks like, what his hair color is. Okay, does he wear glasses or not? Okay, oh, it's old and irresistible, right? So when you read the text, right? Um, how do you imagine what this American man looks like? Okay, the description is not given to you. Therefore, in your imagination, you have to, you have to imagine. You have to think of, what he looks like, right? I'm sure you visualize this what this guy looked like, right? As you read the story, I'm sure your imagination is working, right? Amira Natasha says, with a beard, blue eyes, right? Liana says, hideous white man. Oh, come on, right? Hafiz says, a redneck, okay? I would agree with one of my students in the other class, right, in the other section, who said that she imagined the American man looking like Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, so when she reads the text in her head, she imagines it's Leonardo DiCaprio with a polo shirt, right? Okay, maybe white pants, right? Uh, Timothy Chalamet is like too young to be he's got that apa that what do you call the I forgot the term for it already. But Timothy Chalamet looks very young. Yeah, he looks like a high school boy, right? A bit young, I think. Okay, to me, the term, the name given, American man, right, makes it seem like he's at least middle aged or something, right? 30s or 40s, like that. Okay, so I would agree. Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe Matt Damon with a beard. Okay, something like that. How do you imagine the girl looking like? Okay, what color is the girl's hair in your imagination? Okay, when you read the story, was her hair cut short? Okay, or was it long hair? Okay, uh, Ariana Grande. Yeah? Okay, so uh, wavy auburn hair. Okay, so these are the things that you have to fill in yourself, right? When you read the story. Okay, so if you imagine the American man being Leonardo DiCaprio, then it's totally realistic to imagine the girl being someone half his age, right? Okay, so Ariana Grande will be fine, I suppose, right? Okay, apa? There's a there's a gossip, right, about Leonardo DiCaprio, where he only dates supermodels that are half his age, right? Anyway, right. So very appropriate for for this story, I suppose, right? Okay. So like that, right? Description of these characters are not given. Therefore, you must build the character yourself in your head, right? You must imagine it yourself. At the ending of the story, when the girl, when Jig, shouts at the American man, right? She says, would you please shut up, right? All you have there is the dialogue, right? The actions are not described in the text, right? So how do you imagine that scene going on, right? Happening? Does she stomp her feet? Does she slam the table with her hands? Okay, when she says this, is she pinching her head? Okay, like having a headache or something. Okay, so all of those minor actions that are not detailed in the text, all of that you fill in yourself. Yeah, you you fill in the blanks essentially with your imagination. Okay, so if a story is too detailed, right, if a story does not give any gaps for you to fill with your imagination, then it's not very fun. Okay, it's not very fun. If it offers no gaps, then it offers zero aesthetic pleasure. Okay, part of the fun is filling in this gap, right? Now, apart from that, okay, like Hafi mentioned earlier, plot holes are also considered as narrative gaps. You think about Hills Like White Elephant, right? How does the story end? Okay, the ending of the story is like a cliffhanger, right? You don't know whether they decide to have the operation or not. Okay, whether they decide to stay together, whether suddenly the man, the American man, suddenly gets an epiphany, right? He suddenly gets this. He suddenly decide to grow up. He says, "Okay, I'll take responsibility. But let's get married and so on. Let's settle down, okay, or what?" Right? You don't get that from the story, right? The story ends with a cliffhanger. That is also a narrative gap. Okay, so you as the reader now you interpret. Okay, what do you think is going to be the ending of the story? Is the girl going to get the operation, okay, or not? Or does she decide that she's going to part way with this American man and then go live life as a single mother or something? Right? Okay, so you fill in this narrative gap with your imagination. Yes, okay. I know says like a cliffhanger in a movie. Same thing, right? It's the same thing. When a film ends with a cliffhanger, okay, it's asking you to fill in that gap. Use your imagination, use your intrigue, right? What do you think happened next? Use your creativity, right? Okay, so it's inviting you to fill in that gap with your interpretation, right? So okay. Siti Amira, we mention something great there. Okay, so Amira says, okay, we ourselves write a fan fiction for the ending. Now, when we talk about Henry Jenkins' theory later, okay, we're gonna touch on fan fiction, right? Fan fiction is great. Yeah, it's a great way to respond to a text. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment. All right. Okay, let's get back to Wolfgang Itzer here. Okay, Itzer also talks about something called the implied reader. Okay, what is the implied reader? Think of the implied reader as the imaginary reader that the author has in mind when he's writing the story, when they're writing the story, right? So it explains how the text guide our reading without completely controlling us. Okay, so the implied reader is the hypothetical model embedded in within the text. Okay, it is the ideal reader the author wrote the text for. Okay, possessing exact cultural knowledge, language skill, readiness to respond to the text cues. Okay, the actual reader is different. The actual reader is the real physical person that picked up the story and is sitting on a couch and reading the book. Okay, so the actual reader bring their own biases, their own moods, their own historical era, their personal history. Okay, that might not perfectly match what the text expect from the implied reader. Okay, to put it simply, look at this illustration, right? So imagine this real author. Imagine this is Hemingway. Okay, this is our writer here, Hemingway, and he is writing Hills Like White Elephant. Okay, he's writing. You see that book there? He's writing in, all right, with the feathered pen and so on. This is Hills Like White Elephants, right? So he's writing Hills Like White Elephants. In his mind, okay, in his mind, he has an implied reader. Okay, what is the implied reader? The implied reader for Hemingway could be someone that is reading for pleasure. Okay, someone's reading for pleasure because he's going to publish Hills Like White Elephant in a magazine. Okay, he's going to publish it in a magazine as a short story in a magazine. So obviously, if you pick up a magazine, if you're reading through a magazine, you're reading for pleasure, right? You're reading to pass the time. So it's a happy person interested in reading. Okay, has a high attention span. Okay, because this is the 1920s. Okay, this person is not, this implied reader in Hemingway's mind is not, still has very good attention span. The brain is not, it's not littered with brain rot, tung tung sahur and all that yet. Okay, so very high attention span. Okay, and has a lot of cultured knowledge and so on. Okay, someone in the high attention span. Okay, high attention span. Someone from the 1920s. Okay. Okay, so that's who he was writing for. Okay, so he writes the story, he writes the narrative, and so on. Right? He writes the story, and he published the story. Right? Now, who is the actual reader? Okay, the actual reader is you. Okay, it's you, because last week, okay, we sat down in class, okay, on that stormy afternoon, right? Heavy rain outside, so that's why half the class was missing. Okay, so the real reader is you. All right. Where do you live? You live in 2026, right? You live in 2026. Okay, your attention span is is already a bit rotted by brain rot, right? So yeah, you have a shorter attention span, okay, and so on. You might not get the same cultural references that Hemingway was making, right? Okay, what else? What else? Apa? You are not reading just for pleasure, right? You did not pick the story up, just to, to pass the time. You're not picking up this magazine and reading to pass the time, right? You are being forced to read, right? You come to class, I share the story, I tell you, okay, see in your groups, read the story, right? You're being made to read, okay? Your mood, okay, is also perhaps different, right? Mm, you don't like being forced to read or something, right? Okay, you say, okay, ramnya buang masa je kat sini, right? Okay, so but that is the real reader. Okay, it is different from the implied reader. Yeah, it is not the same. All right. Another thing, okay, okay, how does it affect the reading experience? How does it impact the meaning you get from the text, right? You take, for example, Hills Like White Elephant. The main subject of Hills Like White Elephant is abortion, right? It's about abortion. The operation is about abortion, right? Okay, so when the American man says but the operation is completely safe, is completely fine, right? An audience in the 1920s will know that fella is lying, okay? Because abortion in the 1920s was very dangerous. The doctor's gonna dig around in your stomach and so on, right? Okay, it was very dangerous. Okay, it was very dangerous. Okay, so however, an audience in the 2026 might read that, okay, as and they might agree with the American man. Okay, if the American man says it's a completely safe operation, babe, right? An audience reading in 2026 might say, oh yeah, yeah, completely safe, no problem, no problem at all. Okay, because we live in 2026 where technology exists to make it safe, right? Uh, in audience in the 1920s might disagree with the American man. Okay, you might die from the abortion process, right? So, but, you know, the era where the reader grow up in, okay, also impacts the reading. Yeah. Okay, faham tak, class? Do you understand all this so far? Any questions so far?
No question, sir.
No questions, faham, So different reader will bring to the table different background knowledge, different beliefs, the beliefs of their era, and so on. What is normalized in their era, right? Okay, is in their era, in their culture, and so on. Okay, and they bring that to the reading experience. Okay, and that changes the interpretation. That changes the meaning of how we see the text. Yeah. Okay, let's look at horizon of expectations. This is a horizon of expectation is also kind of linked to that implied reader. All right. So Hans Robert Jauss argued that the text does not possess an immutable universal meaning. Its meaning is continually renegotiated by different generation of readers. So the horizon of expectation refers to the shared set of cultural, social, and literary criteria that a specific group of readers bring to the text at a particular moment in history. So you can apply that to Hills Like White Elephant. From 2026, okay? Cultural value will also differ. Okay, you ask a Malaysian to read Hills Like White Elephant and an American to read the same story, they might see the story differently. Okay, because in let's say for a Malaysian, an idea about abortion and so on is seen as taboo. You should not be living that kind of life and so on, right? The kind of aimless life, right? No, you're dating this American man, right? He's taking you around Europe and so on, okay, and then you're getting pregnant and stuff, right? No, apa? No expectation to settle down, to get married, and so on, right? A Malaysian might look at that and say, this is not a good way to live your life, right? This is not what you want, in a in a relationship, right? You must have some end goals, right, of settling down and so on. But you ask an American in 2026, they might say that, oh yeah, it's completely okay, right? Situationships and so on, right? Okay, you they might have different ideas, right? Okay, because they come from a different culture. All right, so time and space matters. Yeah, it brings with it different expectations. Now, horizon of expectations is also affects how you look, how you value a text. Okay, what I mean there is whether or not a text, a film, a story, um, it can be considered as good or not. Okay, take this for example. Okay, you take this for example. Let's say horror. Okay, how many of you here in this class are fans of horror films, horror movies? How many of
Me.
you? Oh, sorry. I know likes horror movie. Okay, who else? Okay, look at all those thumbs up. Right? Liana says yes. Okay, Hafi says yes. Some of you say no. Okay, all right. Okay, horror films. All right, horror films. Uh, what do psychological horror? Yeah, yeah. Okay, very good. Psychological thrillers and so on. Right. So let me ask you this: what do you expect from a horror movie? Let's say you watch Netflix, for example, and if you have Netflix, yeah, you turn on Netflix, you see there's oh man, okay, Malaysian Netflix has crazy collection of horror movies, right? Okay, what do you want from what do you expect from a horror movie? Liana says jump scares. Siti Amira also says jump scares. All right. Hafiz says feeling disturbed. Okay, so let's write it down. Okay, you expect some jump scares. Okay, you expect some feeling some disturbance. Okay, not in real life, right? But disturbance as in you feel unsettled, right? Unsettling feeling, right? Okay. What else? What else do you expect when you scroll past the horror section, right? They tunjuk all these posters, right, of the horror films, kan? Apa? Uh, all this crazy titles and so on, right? Okay. Uh, what do you expect? Okay, you expect ghosts, right? You expect gore. Okay. I know this. She expects gore. Okay. Some gore, right? Some violence, some blood, right? Okay. So you expect these things out of the horror movie, right? You expect these things. Now, what if you expect some jump scares, you expect some feeling of unsettling, some violence and so on, right? You choose that horror movie and it doesn't have jump scare. Okay, if and you watch that movie, it doesn't have any gore, okay, or any cool monsters or ghosts whatsoever. Okay, what if it does not have that? If it doesn't give you that, you would feel rather frustrated, right? You would feel like a waste of time, right? Okay, so this is the horizon of expectations as well. When you look at something like jump scare, for example, okay, uh, if you go back, right? If you go back to horror movies in the 70s, in the 60s, and so on, the black and white horror movies and so on, they did not really have jump scares, right? In fact, even in the 80s, they didn't really have jump scares, right? Jump scares was introduced in what I think 90s 2000s, like that, okay. But once you start introducing jump scare, okay, then the audience of the horror film, liked it very much, and then they come to expect some jump scares in the in the story, okay. That is also horizon of expectations. How many of you have watched a movie by Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan's movie. M. Night Shyamalan's movie. Yeah. Shyamalan. How do you spell Shyamalan? Shyamalan. Right? And is it like that? I don't know. Something like that, right? M. Night Shyamalan. Any of you watched M. Night Shyamalan movie by M. Night Shyamalan? The Village. Apa lagi? Lady in the Water, I think, right? Old? No, not okay. Yeah, I suppose. Okay, millennial stuff, right? What else? What else? Lady in the Water. There was the Happening. Apa? S- Sam Raimi's movies are good, okay, but the point I'm getting at here is that M. Night Shyamalan, Split was Split by M. Night Shyamalan. Yes, it was right. Split was by M. Night Shyamalan, I think Split movie. Who directed this? Yes, M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, I forgot it. I forgot why there. Okay, Split. Yes, Split is a movie by M. Night Shyamalan as well. Okay, yes, The Visit as well. The Visit, the crazy old people movie, right? Okay, now when you watch M. Night Shyamalan movie, what do you expect? Okay, the audiences expect plot twists. There must be some plot twists, right? Okay, things are not as they seem, right? I remember watching one of his first movies, right? The Village. The Village has some very very good plot twists. Okay, and then you watch the Visit. Okay, the Visit was kind of Sixth Sense as well. Sixth Sense also him. Sixth Sense. This is 1999. Who directed this? It was him. Right? Yeah. That one. That one was an oldie. Yeah, one of his greats, right? And even Sixth Sense has this plot twist, right? Where spoiler alert, right? The main character is actually dead already, right? He's a ghost. Okay, so that's the plot twist, right? There's a plot twist. You watch an M. Night Shyamalan movie, there is a plot twist that becomes an expectation. So when you watch an M. Night Shyamalan movie and there is no plot twist, okay, yeah, automatically you give it a 1 out of 10, okay? Or the plot twist is so dumb, like one of his lesser movies, right? The Happening. If you ever watched The Happening, in fact, you know what? Don't watch The Happening. It's a waste of time. All right. The twist is absolutely nonsensical. Okay. So it's the twist is there for the twist, right? Because you watch M. Night Shyamalan movie, you expect there to be a twist. Okay. And there's a twist. Okay. So that is also horizon of expectations. Okay. If the first movie, right, M. Night Shyamalan produced, which was I think Sixth Sense, right? I don't know any other earlier than that he made. But when Sixth Sense, when he released Sixth Sense, there was that plot twist, right? Everyone thought it was great, right? What a wonderful surprise! I did not see that coming, right? It was exciting, okay, and it sets expectations, okay. Every time you watch a movie, a thriller by M. Night Shyamalan, you kind of expect there to be some sort of twist, okay. And when there is no twist, or the twist is not well thought out, the twist is not very smart, okay, you become disappointed, right? You feel that that wasn't a very good movie, okay. The same thing with horror movies, okay. You expect there to be cool monster design, okay, or you expect there to be some gore, for example, right? And then you watch an older horror movie from 70s or something, where gore wasn't allowed on screen, okay. Then you feel like that was kind of lame, all right. Sam Raimi is great. Yeah? Sam Raimi. I I tell you what. I from Sam Raimi, my favorite was apa? Uh, Evil Dead. Evil Dead. Right. Evil Dead was good. Okay. Evil Dead was good. I have not watched the others. Yeah. But Bring Me Back to Hell and Send Help. Yeah, I have not seen that. But I like Evil Dead, right? Other than that, there's a Spider-Man, right, from Sam Raimi. That's also very good. Okay, Tobey Maguire. Okay, AI looking ghosts now. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. You expect cool monster design, and then what you get is a AI looking ghost. All right. Okay. On the subject of horror movies, right? There was this one time I watched you watch a horror movie, okay, on Netflix. It's called the. It's an Australian horror movie. Yeah, it's called The Babadook. Okay, The Babadook. All right. Oh, very creepy poster and so on. Okay, this is gonna give a lot of jump scare, a lot of. Then it turns out complete garbage, right? And then, you you become severely disappointed because it turns out in the end the monster isn't even real, okay. So it's like okay. That's trash. How trash is it? Okay, oh my god, I'll give -1 out of 10. Okay, that's how much of a waste of time that was. Okay, you can go and watch. Okay, you can read some pretentious review that tells you, oh, this is great psychological horror, feminist criticism, and so on. This is the mental state of a woman left by her family. So, man, get out of here! You wasted 2 hours of my time. All right. Okay, that's 2 hours I'm not gonna get back. Okay, let's move on. Any questions so far? Wolfgang Iser's theory? No questions. That's more okay. Yeah? So more all right. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at interpretive community. This is a theory by Stanley Fish. Okay. I think he proposed this in the 1990s. Yeah. Why 1990s? Because in the 1990s, you have the beginnings of the internet and all that, right? So Stanley Fish argued that the text possesses no independent existence or inherent meaning whatsoever until a reader interprets it, right? Stanley Fish, right? Stanley Fish highlighted the role of the interpretive community, a group of readers who share the same culture, the same culturally, educationally conditioned reading strategies, interpretive categories, and institutional biases. Okay, so in other words, when you read, you do not read in isolation. You read with a lot of other people. Okay, I don't mean act of reading, you're reading in a group, okay, but you're not the only one who reads, okay. When you watch a film, you're not the only person that watched that film, okay. There are others as well, okay. So you do not read as a completely isolated, unique individual. You read using cognitive tools, assumptions, strategies handed down to you by your society, your education, your profession, whatsoever. Okay, one example of an interpretive community is our class, right? Our class is an interpretive community, okay? Because, I give you the story, I tell you to read the story, I give you some questions I want you to discuss, right? So, but you don't just discuss with ChatGPT, right? You discuss with other people, right? You hear other people's opinion, okay? And then we discuss together as a whole class afterwards, right? So that is an interpretive community. Another example of interpretive community is from the internet, okay? Let's say, for example, you watched the Odyssey, right? You watched the Odyssey, you liked it very much, right? And then there are some, you have your own interpretation of the Odyssey, right? About the ending, about some of the scenes, and so on, right? And then what do? You search on the internet, right? You open up your phone, you open up Google, you search on the internet. What does this mean, and so on, right? Okay, does this mean this, and so on? Okay, how many of you have seen interpretation on Reddit? Okay, Letterbox. Letterbox is a website for apa? For reviews and all that, right? If I'm not mistaken. It is. All right. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So yeah, it's like a forum and stuff, right? For movie nets. Okay. So or you read the comments on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. Or you read the comments on YouTube comment section again. Okay. That serves similar purpose. Okay. Or you read on Reddit, right? Okay. So you read those. Okay. Why? Because you want to know more, or you want to confirm your interpretation, right? You have your interpretation, but you want to see whether other people share that same interpretation as well, right? So you look at the internet. You check on Reddit, for example. Okay, Reddit is useful, okay, but it's also kind of trash. I mean the people on, on Reddit, right? Okay, about a couple of years ago, right? I was very active on Reddit, right? But oh my god, okay, they are, right? There is something about it. Yes, a bunch of red flags, right? It's like it's people who are. It gives me the impression of people who are terminally online, right? It's like they, these people. It's like you gain upvotes or whatsoever on Reddit, right? You gain badge or whatsoever. Like it matters in real life. Get out of here, right? Okay, it does not matter in real life, right? So other than that, okay, Reddit is fine as a as a place for information or whatsoever, right? Yes, incel, unfortunately. Okay, right. Okay, so the internet exists for that. It is an interpretive community, right? Uh, dulu, right? I had this this joke, right, where I say, you watch a movie, you liked it very much, okay, but you don't know whether it's okay to like it, right? So you check on Reddit, you check on the internet whether whether to confirm whether other people like it or not. Okay, so if other people like it as well, then okay, it's safe to like this movie, right? If it turns out other people hate it, oh no, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm uncultured? Okay, that I have poor taste? Okay, because I like this movie. Okay, so that's what happens when you're terminally online. right? Okay. Yeah, great. I know, sis. She goes against them. Okay, that's okay as well. All right. Okay. Now let's look at Henry Jenkins' participatory culture. Okay. Look at this. Okay, what is this? A cosplayer. Is this you? Okay, this could be you, and that's okay, right? That's okay. Now let's look at this participatory culture. What is the root word of this word here? Okay, it is to participate, right? Participate, meaning to take part in things, right? That's what participate means. Okay, so Henry Jenkins argued that media consumers are not passive, brainwashed targets of corporate messaging. Okay, rather, uh, they are active, creative, and highly critical agents who transform mass media into their own folk culture. So in traditional media ecosystem, there is a strict divide between the producers and the consumers. Okay, so the producers are the studios, the authors, the directors, the publishers, and so on, right? And the consumer, which is the audience, the readers, and so on. Okay, now Jenkins argued that in the wake of the internet, okay, where you can communicate much easier with other people. All right, he argued that internet fandom shatters this hierarchy, okay, of who are the producers of media and the consumer. All right, so internet fandom shatters this hierarchy and replaces it with participatory culture, okay, where the audience also participate as a creator, okay. So textual poaching, okay, so he calls this textual poaching meaning to hunt illegally, okay, or to take things that you want. All right, so uses the term poaching to describe the specific relationship between fans and commercial text. Okay, so mass media text like television shows, anime, okay, film franchise, book franchise, and so on, right? Book series, and so on, right? Are legally owned by a corporation, right? The audience has no official ownership over it. So you think about J.K. Rowling, for example, right? J.K. Rowling owns the Harry Potter IP, right? I assume she's the writer, so I assume that she owns the IP. So J.K. Rowling owns Harry Potter. Okay, the Harry Potter series, the Harry Potter characters, and so on. It is her IP, right? She has sold the rights to make the film to Universal Studios or whatsoever, right? You, as the audience, you don't have ownership over Harry Potter, right? You do not own Harry Potter. Okay, you cannot make your own Harry Potter movie, right? Now, however, textual poaching goes against that, right? Or goes around that ownership. Okay, fans seize elements that resonate with them, such as minor characters, compelling dynamics, okay, or unresolved plot lines. Okay, they steal is would be the wrong word to use. They poach, right? They poach all of these things, okay, and then they patch them together with their own real experiences, political views, emotional needs to construct an entirely new cultural artifacts like fan fiction and fan art. Okay, you can go to Wattpad, for example. Wattpad has a crazy amount of fan fiction, right? Try to look for Harry Potter fan fiction on Wattpad. There's a lot of cringeworthy things there. Okay, there's a lot of fan fiction there, right? Okay, so the creation of fan fiction is a form of reader response. Okay, it is you, the reader, responding to the text that you like. Okay, the film that you like, the anime that you like. Okay, you as the reader, you are responding but through the process of creation. when you write your fan fiction, you draw your fan art, you cosplay as the characters and so on, right? How many of you do this? How many of you have written fan fiction before to change the ending of a story, like siapa tadi mention, Amira mentioned, right, just now, change the ending of a story, you know, by writing fan fiction. How many of you have drawn fan art of your favorite characters? How many of you have engaged in cosplay? Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. No. Okay. So now here's the thing, right? If you don't have to admit it, I suppose, right? You don't have to admit it, right? But if you do, right, just understand that creating fan fiction is not cringe. Okay. In fact, I would argue that it is the peak. Okay. It's basically the peak of cultural appreciation. Okay, you appreciate that that the text so much that you are willing to put in effort in creating fan fiction, or you are willing to spend time to draw your fan art and so on. Okay, those people that cosplay, right? Have you ever been to those cosplay convention at KLCC and so on, right? At the convention center in KLCC, right? I think there was one this year, right? Okay, so if you've ever been to those cosplay convention, right? What is those costumes take time, effort, and money, right? To make, right? But why do you do it? It's not just for the attention, right? It's because you're trying to show your appreciation for whatever anime series that you're cosplaying as, right? Or book series, or films, or whatsoever, right? You are showing apa, your appreciation. Okay, you are responding, okay, to the best of your abilities. Yes, yes. Okay, you cosplay as game characters. Why? Because you like that game very much, right? You're not going to cosplay as characters as in a game that you don't like, right? Okay, you play you play some you play some garbage game like I don't know any garbage game, right? Because I have good taste. Okay, so if you play some game and you feel that, oh, this game is garbage, you're not gonna put in effort to cosplay, right? You only Flappy Bird. Okay, you're not gonna cosplay as the Flappy Bird, right? But instead, you're going to pick a game that you really like, that you really enjoy, right? Okay, and you cosplay as that character. Can okay, so you can put in the effort, and that is you demonstrating peak appreciation of culture, yeah, of the game, or or the text, basically, right? If you cosplay as CJ from GTA San Andreas, right? That's a very simple cosplay to make, right? Right. You compare that to characters that what do people cosplay as these days? Genshin Impact characters or something, right? Okay, those things are elaborate. It's gonna take a lot of effort, a lot of time spent on that, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, Genshin, Genshin speak. Yeah. All right. Yeah, all of those your gacha games and so on. You get that, right? So anyway, Wattpad. If you've never written fan fiction before, give it a try, right? Give it a try. I'm sure there's animes that you enjoy, right? Okay. So write some fan fiction on Wattpad, right? If you search on Wattpad, right, you might even find my fan fiction from my college days, dulu, still floating around. I think my profile is still up, right? Lama dah tak go back in. All right. Anyway, I don't want to read my my fan fiction written 20 years ago, right? That is cringe, right? Oof. Okay, but anyway, you get the idea, right? Fan fiction is not, it's not bad, right? It's not bad. It's not something you should look down on, right? It is peak culture appreciation. Okay, collective intelligence. Okay, this is the last part of the of Jenkins' theory, collective intelligence, right? So Jenkins noted that modern fandoms rely heavily on collective intelligence. No single fan can know everything about a massive, sprawling fictional universe. Okay, uh, was that? Okay, Hafiz says we made a deal. If it got great marks in our test, we will reveal your family. Ah, good, not goodness. You can try and find it. Yeah, you're not okay. I used to write fan fiction for there's this old anime series, yeah, called The Slayers. Okay, um, I used to write fan fiction for that. Okay. See if you can find it. Okay. That was classic. Yeah. Okay. All right. So. All right. Collective intelligence. Right. Collective intelligence. So Jenkins noted that no single fan can know everything about a massive, sprawling universe. Okay. You take, for example, MCU. Right. Marvel Cinematic Universe. You might like a few parts of the MCU, right? Maybe you're a big fan of Spider-Man, right? You like Spider-Man very much. You're a big fan of Spider-Man. You know all the villains in Spider-Man comics and Spider-Man cartoons and so on, right? But you don't know everything, okay? The MCU is huge, right? There are some very obscure characters as well, right? I don't know enough about MCU to know all the obscure characters. I'm a DC fan, right? Okay, so yeah, right. So if I know, for example, like Scarlet Witch, okay, she might know about Scarlet Witch, okay, but uh, maybe you don't know everything. You don't know about the kind of villains that the Punisher fights or whatsoever. Again, it is impossible for a single fan to know everything about a particular fandom, right, or fictional universe. Okay, yes, DC for the win. Yeah, uh, much clearer. In some parts, DC feels a bit more matured, a bit more cultured. Yeah, to put it simply. Okay, so the interpretive community pulls its knowledge together through shared wikis, massive discussion forums, and collaborative tagging systems. Okay, the community construct a massive decentralized pool of data that any individual fan can tap into and write highly accurate or complex fan fiction. What is this called? This is called a wiki, okay, like Wikipedia, right? But you have a wiki for other fandoms as well. So MCU, Marvel has a wiki, okay? DC has a wiki, right? Star Wars. If you're a big fan of Star Wars, okay, you can go to the Star Wars wiki, okay? It's called Wikipedia, okay? That's an example of audience collective intelligence. Okay, so this is a website that talks about, all anything you want to know about Star Wars. You can come here. I'm sure there's an article somewhere, right? Look at this, okay? For the Mandalorian. Okay, if you watch Mandalorian, right? Okay, you want to know about this character, you want to know about that character, just click the link, right? And I'm sure you will find an article. Kathleen Kennedy is the CEO, right? Okay, you want to know about this character, you want to know about that character, right? Okay, so just click the link. I'm sure you will find some articles talking about it, right? Okay, so this is a collective intelligence. Okay, the fans pool their knowledge together, okay, into one decentralized website, like a wiki here. this Wikipedia here, right? This is an artifact, right? If the internet ever goes down one day, right, or World War III or something, you better download the entire Wikipedia, right? This is like what? This is like a historical. This is literature for the post-apocalyptic age, for the zombie age later. Okay, let's summarize that. Let's summarize all of our theories that we've looked at today, right? So Louis Rosenblatt said that literature is an immediate lived transaction where the text provides the blueprint and the reader provides the spark of life. What is that spark of life? Okay, it is your imagination. Okay, you bring the story to life when you read it. Okay, Wolfgang Itzer says he suggested that the text is a network of gaps, right? Narrative gaps. Now, the reader must use the cognitive mechanics to actively co author what is unsaid. Okay, so you, as the reader, you fill in the gaps using your imagination. Hans Jaus says that interpretations are never static, but continually renegotiated over time, okay, as historical and cultural expectations evolve. Stanley Fish tells us that meaning is entirely constructed by strategies of our shared interpretive community. So you don't read alone, you read with a community of other readers, other audiences that watch movies, other players that play the games that you play, right? So, they help guide your interpretation or confirm your interpretation, confirm your taste as well, right? Henry Jenkins assert that modern digital communities will poach and rewrite the text to claim narrative ownership, okay, through fan fiction, fan art, and so on, right? Which is peak cultural appreciation, right? Okay, conclusion. All right. So literature is not a passive artifact to be decoded, but a dynamic cultural event. So meaning does not belong to the author or the corporation that's publishing the text, right, or the film or whatsoever. Instead, it belongs entirely to the active performance of the reader. Okay, class, do you have any questions about reader response criticism? Any questions to
No, sir.
ask? No questions. That's more clear. Everyone okay?
Yes, it's
Wonderful.
clear.
All right. Okay, then. So that is it for today's class. Next, we're gonna have another online class on Friday, right? But Friday morning, what we're gonna do is I am going to brief you on the assignment only. Okay. Apa? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, glad to hear that you enjoyed the class, Liana. Okay. Um, Okay, all right, wonderful. So next week, we are going to talk. Next week on Wednesday, we're gonna have a physical class. We're gonna read a story, okay, and we're gonna apply some of these reader response techniques, okay. This reader response discussion, and then in the um, in the online class next week, we will cover feminist criticism. Yeah, we're gonna look at feminism, feminist criticism. Okay, and then next week is week 7. Week 8, we will week 8 we're gonna talk about a movie. Yeah, week 8 we're gonna talk about obsession. Okay, if you have watched Obsession, wonderful. If you have not watched Obsession, watch it. Okay, I will try to hold on. Yeah, I will try to see if I can get the film through, you know, less than legal way. Okay, and I'll see if I can share it with you on the Padlet. Yeah. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much. I will see you all on Friday. Right? Friday class, online class. We'll do an assignment briefing then. Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
nice day.
sir.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
saya nak quote, sir. Saya